Good evening, West Coast, Berbice, New Amsterdam, and of course, right here in the Quarantine Coast. Welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important issues that would have taken place in our country over the last week or so. And as I normally say, Guyana is a very dynamic country, and every day there are changes, there are things that are worthy of our discussion, because we live in a very, very dynamic and changing society. An important component of this program also is to highlight what is taking place locally and to provide, where necessary, a forum for persons to complain on set right here live about atrocities and about wrongs, about abuses of power which may be taking place in and around the Quarantine Coast. And over the period that I have been on this program, a consistent issue has been raising its ugly head along the Quarantine Coast, in particular in the areas of Albion, Nig, and Kanji. And that issue is the abuse, or at least the allegations of abuse, allegations of abuse by stray catchers and by policemen who, according to the allegations that I am receiving, are unlawfully impounding people's animals and are extracting money from people, and also are abusing their statutory and legal powers in executing and discharging their duties and functions. On numerous occasions, I have had the cause to discuss these matters and to ventilate them fully, listening to the complaints of small cattle farmers in and around the area. As you know, cattle, the rearing of cattle and livestock is part of the way of life of people in Guyana, in particular in the rural communities. And it is a source of livelihood. So, in almost every village in rural Guyana, you would find a few dozens of persons who rear cattle and livestock to supplement their living and their livelihood. And we have had this constant problem of stray catchers being accused of impounding animals unlawfully and unfairly. And I am not oblivious also to the nuisance and dangers that these animals pose to users of the road. I am not oblivious to the number of traffic accidents that are either caused or contributed to by stray animals, unattended animals on the road. And therefore, when I ventilate this issue of stray animals, I do so from an informed perspective, and I do so with a recognition that I am obliged to balance the issues. And the balance has to be struck, or a balance has to be struck between the right of people to mine animals and the right of them to herd those animals when they are outside of the confines of their yards or pastures. So on the one hand you have those rights, and then on the other hand the rights of road users not to be affected by stray animals, and the protection that road users are entitled to against the dangers which stray animals pose, as well as the damage that stray animals do to private property in the villages. I say all of that to give you the impression that I am not one-sided on this matter, and that I understand the ramifications, the implications, and the complexity of the issue at hand. And when I speak on this matter, and when I ventilate this issue of stray animals, I do so taking into account all the things that I have said. So I just want people to understand that. Now I am going to invite a young lady into the studio who wants to make some allegations public against stray catchers and against police officers attached to the New Amsterdam number 51 village police outpost. And this young lady, you're tall, I don't think the camera is catching you. We may have to get a chair for you. We're just making some quick on-set arrangement to accommodate this very tall young lady. Please have a seat. And what is your name? Make sure. Yes. Right. What is your name?
Janita Mohabir.
What's that?
Janita Mohabir.
Janita Mohabir. And where do you live?
Topu Albion.
Topu Albion.
Flat 604 Topu Albion.
And how old are you?
23.
You are 23 years old. And whom do you live with?
My parents.
You live with your parents. What job does your father do?
Farming.
Your father is a farmer. What aspect of farming does he do?
Rearing of animals, poultry.
He rears animals and poultry. What kind of animals?
Cow, horse, sheep, goat.
Okay, so he has cows, horses, sheep.
Chicken.
Okay, and where he does this rearing of animals?
By our home.
By your house?
Yes, sir. And some of them at the savannah. The cattle is at the savannah.
So the cattle, he does that at the savannah.
Yeah.
And the cows and the fowl and duck and so on, he does at home.
With the sheep and goat.
Okay. And you want to complain to me about an incident. Now, you have to speak very slowly and loudly so that our audience can hear you. Alright? Now, what day this incident happened?
On the 22nd of January.
On the 22nd of January, at or about what time?
About 1:30.
1:30 p.m. or a.m.?
1:30 p.m.
So on the 22nd of January,
Sunday, 1:30 p.m.
oh, the 22nd was a Sunday.
Yeah.
On Sunday, the 22nd of January, at 1:30 p.m., at your house.
No, not at my house. That is when we catch the stray animal.
Oh, tell us what happened.
The stray catcher came in from the Albion estate and catch the stray cattle. And the villager, Sandri village, the villager came out and take away the animal from them.
So the stray catchers came and they took some animals.
Yes.
And the villagers of San Reeve came
Yes.
out
Yes.
and caused the animals to be
Yes.
released.
Yes.
Yes. And what happened?
And on the 28th of January, that was Saturday night, they came by my father's home. That's where I live in.
Who came?
The police officer. He said his name is Lincoln.
Police officer Lincoln.
Yeah.
Did he say which police station he's attached to?
No. I asked him if he have a warrant. He said no. Police officers don't have to have a warrant to come by your home.
Alright, and what did he do when he come by your home?
He came and my uncle was there looking at horse racing. He take my uncle, he said you have to say who went there. And he carried him to the lockup. He locked him up, we went Sunday, he went on $20,000 bail, we bailed him. He came home. Now Saturday night, 12:30, they came around home. I told him earlier that my father is not home. That's why he take my uncle. And then 12:30 he came, he said
12:30 in the night?
in the night. He said he is a police officer. I asked him who? He said he's police officer Lincoln to open the door. When I peeped through the window, I pulled the blind, I see no vehicle. And he said he is Officer Lincoln to open the door.
Yes.
And I already told him that my father is not home.
And what happened?
And they break the door. They insist at the bottom and they go up with some stick and they break the what's the name? The veranda. No,
They
landing.
break it. Who break the door?
The officer.
How many policemen?
4 of them.
4 policemen. They came on
Yes.
foot
Yeah.
without a vehicle,
Yeah.
and they break your door 12 o'clock in the night.
12:30.
On which day?
28th January, Saturday.
The 28th of January. That's Saturday gone.
Yes.
How they break the door? They kick it open. They hit it with wood.
They hit it with wood.
They hit it with wood. All right. They break the door, and what they did?
They didn't get in, but the door break on the side.
Oh, they attempted to break open the door,
Yeah.
and they didn't
No.
succeed.
No.
And what happened after that?
After that, they said my father go to the police station. My father went there, he reached the CIA
When did your father go there?
this morning.
This morning now?
Yes, my father came from Savannah this morning, he went there.
Yes.
He go with liar Stovan.
Okay.
And there was no police turn up. When the liar asked for Officer Lincoln, there is no Officer Lincoln, and no other officer said that they don't know about any issue like that.
They don't know about it.
No.
Lincoln had on uniform.
Yes, but he have no badge.
He had
I
no
asked him
badge.
for his badge. He said he don't have a badge. It is in the vehicle.
All right. So your uncle is on $20,000 bail.
Yeah.
Has he been charged?
No, they didn't even take a statement from him.
They didn't even take.
They just put him in the lockup.
So he's out now.
Yeah.
All right. Which station?
Alvin Police Station.
He has his bail receipt.
Yes.
Could you tell him that I say to take his bail receipt
Yeah.
and go back and collect back his money, $20,000,
When?
tomorrow morning?
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will
Thank you,
take
sir.
it from here. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, you would have heard the complaints, the allegations made by this young woman. She's only 23 years old. Her father is a farmer. The large part of his farm is in the savannah, so he is not home on a regular basis. Stray catchers were in the area during some day, the 22nd, she said, and you heard what she said, they tried to catch animals and the villagers resisted and they were forced to lose the animals. They came home by these people in the night, arrested one of her uncles, took him to the station, put him on $20,000 bail, locked him up whole night, so he lost his freedom for an entire night. Next day they released him on bail, no charge. Then they came back. The same Lincoln officer comes back along with 3 other officers, 12 o'clock in the night, trying to kick down these people's door. Unfortunately or fortunately, they were unable to do so, to get access to the house. They left, they have no badge, they have no warrant. When the household, the head of the household, the father comes home from the savannah this morning, goes to the police station, the police now tells them that there is no Lincoln attached to the police station. That is what will cause great violence in this country, because people will not trust policemen. If policemen are taking off their badges of identification and are operating in the night like bandits, when physical harm befalls them, then they cannot be heard to complain. Because if you are moving in the night in villages like bandits, you are liable to be treated like bandits. I hope the commander is looking at this program. I believe it is my good friend Watts. And please, Mr. Watts, look into this matter. I refuse to believe that 3 persons will be attired in police uniform and they are not policemen. I refuse to believe that they will come in relation to a person who is in police custody and they want some other persons connected to that person, that they will 3-4 strangers unconnected to the police will turn up at people's house asking for these people. They had one of the men in custody. They had to release him. They are coming for the others. Who will come? Not police officers? And they are hiding their identity. And obviously there is some collusion with officers at the Albion police station who are denying knowledge of that exercise. The man was locked up at Albion. They went back to the man's house for someone else. Obviously there's a connection with Albion police station. And therefore their denial that they are unaware of who these people are, that they are not police officers and there is no Lincoln in the police force, at least in Berbice, is not credible. It's not credible. And I am asking the commander to launch an investigation into this matter, because there are certain advice that I'm going to give to people in circumstances like this that will put the police in physical danger if they continue to operate in this manner. And my advice will be in accordance with law and what the rights people have to protect themselves, their persons, their properties from trespassers and from bandits. And if the police cannot behave in a manner that people are able to reasonably identify them, recognize them, and differentiate them from bandits, then the advice that I'm going to give people in relation to how to treat bandits will apply to police officers as well. And the police will have no one to blame if harm befalls them in these communities in which they are operating in the darkness of night and in a suspicious manner. So please, I'm calling on this kind of activities to stop, because there are going to be dire consequences if it continues like this. And this brings me to the topic of what I want to speak about. fear. You know, for 23 years while the PUP was in government, this land was free from fear. Perhaps you had fear of bandits, but genuinely there was a feeling of freedom. Everyone felt that they had freedom. They can do as they wish in accordance with law, of course. They can say what they wish, and they don't have to fear reprisal, victimization. They don't have to worry about revenge. They don't have to worry that there will be a reaction from the government of the day or the state. For 23 years, we had that freedom, that level of comfort where we can write freely in the newspapers. We can criticize the government. Ramaya can sit for hours and hours and criticize the government. And Ramjatan and Nagamotu can come on television, and Charandas can come on television, and they can talk for hours. And not one day you ever hear them say that as a result of what they said, they suffered some wrong at the hands of the government. That is what democracy is. And that is a freedom. That is the freedom for which you can't place a monetary value on. Unfortunately, today, in the country that we live, that freedom is fastly slipping away. It is fastly slipping away. The business community is in fear, not of bandits, well, at least not of bandits alone, but they are in fear of this government. And every businessman who is listening to me, if he wants to be honest, he will confess that what I'm saying is true. I deal with thousands of businessmen in Georgetown and right across this country. They come to me for protection. They come to me for help. And there's one common thread that underpins their story. They are fearful. They are fearful of the Guyana police force being unleashed upon them. They are fearful of Soku being unleashed upon them. They are fearful of Saru being unleashed upon them. They are fearful of the Guyana Revenue Authority being unleashed upon them. And is this fear unjustified? Is this fear that envelops this land, is it without basis? Why are these businessmen suddenly afraid? Businessmen are mortally afraid to advertise with television or media outlets that are seen to be opposed to the government. Mortally afraid. They are afraid of putting their advertisements in media that are critical of this government. Why? The paper, the media outlet that was most successful under the PPP was the Kaijur News, the one that was the most critical of our government. That was the paper that sold the most. That was the paper that got the most advertisements. Now, if you are critical of this government, you're not getting any ads from businessmen in Guyana because they're afraid. I just come off the phone with a the manager, the CEO of a huge, one of the largest businesses in this country. And he is afraid to place an advertisement for his company in a particular media unit. He said, "But I don't know how these people stay. I don't want a problem with them." And that is the fear that is gripping this country. Every day, businessmen are calling me about Soku. Now I began by asking you whether this fear is misplaced. And Sarah, headed by Clive Thomas. Imagine Clive Thomas says that he will investigate every owner of a tall building in Guyana. What manner of madness is going on in this country? If you have a tall building, that is a basis for suspicion. If you have a tall building, there is a basis upon which you are going to be investigated. How does these people want this country to move forward? Have they ever seen New York, Manhattan, or any modern city in the world? The length and height of those buildings? And in Guyana, we have 4-story, the highest. And you're going to be investigated if you have a 4-story building? Is this country governed by intelligent people or a group of lunatics? The fear that I speak about is being perpetuated and it's being concretized by the laws that this government is passing every time we go to Parliament. So they now have laws to go into your bank account to see how much money you have without your permission. They now have laws to go into your bank account and take out your money without your permission if you owe taxes. They have laws to make you a prisoner in Guyana and to prevent you from leaving Guyana if you owe taxes. They have passed laws. They have the SARA bill, which I will have to do a whole program about, that is going to empower this unit called SARA, the State Asset Recovery Agency. This law is going to empower this agency to do almost anything in this country, and this agency doesn't have to answer to anybody. This agency is being given police powers, tax officer powers, immigration powers, and a whole host of powers, and not answerable to anybody. And therefore, people have a basis to be worried and to be afraid. Businessmen called me up to this morning to find out when we are challenging this law and when we are going to take this law to the court. But these things don't happen overnight. The businessmen must understand that they are part of this struggle. This is not the struggle for politicians only. I am a lawyer. I can defend myself. I can defend those who are close to me. But I will never act selfishly. But everyone has to play their role. We are living under an authoritarian system. We are living under a system where we are losing democracy every day. And the dictator, the authoritarian animal by its very nature, will take more of you unless you resist. Unless you resist. With all the things that I am doing, me alone, personally, on this television program, in the newspapers, in the courts, why do you think no one has ever, come after me as yet? I know they will. but they know that resistance will come from me. And therefore, that puts them on a back foot. That is how bullies behave. But if you ever give them the impression that you are a coward, that you are afraid of them, that they can take advantage of you, they will gobble you up and they will swallow you. That is the nature of the behavior and natural instinct of a dictator and authoritarian. You have to stand up and you have to resist. And it is not that the people of Berbice are incapable of resisting. It is not that the people of Berbice are new to this. And when I say people of Berbice, I speak to every single Guyanese in Berbice. Because when the dictators come, eventually, they don't come for one racial group alone. They don't come for only East Indian people. They come for every single one of you. And that is why people like Walter Rodney was blown to pieces. Afro-Guyanese, blown to pieces by an African Guyanese government, the PNC. They don't know race. When they get out of control, it's everyone who are going to be exposed. Look at the rice farmers. Look at what they are doing to their own supporters in Region 5. Region 5 has hundreds of rice farmers who support and supported this government. They voted for this government. And look at the treatment that those rice farmers are getting today. The rice farmers from Washington, from Hopetown, from Litchfield, from Seafield, from number 40 village, from all those places, Belladrum, etc. You think they are being treated differently? No. The increase that they are proposing for the rates at MMA are going to decimate those farmers as well. It is up to those farmers. I can't go and talk to them. They wouldn't talk to me. They would think that I have a political axe to grind. They wouldn't talk to me. But it is up to them how much they will tolerate of this government. I have said over and over again that this government is only working towards making about 4,000 to 5,000 people happy. And as their friends and their relatives, and there is no race there either. Because you have Brian Tiwari, you have Larry Singh. Those are the people who are enjoying. Only over 5,000 of them, total. The ministers and their family and so on. Everybody else go to hell. And that is why I keep saying and reminding you that no ministers, none of the ministers are visiting the villages throughout this country. Guyana is not Georgetown. They are only in Georgetown in air-conditioned offices and air-conditioned vehicles. $24 million Land Cruisers that they are bringing in one by one. That's all that they are concerned about. They're not visiting the farmers. They're not visiting the rice farmers. They're not visiting and talking to the sugar workers. Once in a while, you will see them. If ever at all. When the last a minister was in New Amsterdam, or Angais Avenue, or Stanley Town, where the people voted for them? When last was a minister seen in those areas? When last was a minister in Manchester? in Glasgow. When Lars was a minister in Belladrum, these are the people who voted for them, and they're never there. You think they're going to visit Wim? Or they're going to visit Portmorant? No, it will not happen. So you have to brace yourself for the long haul, 2020. And we will take it from there. Yesterday in the Parliament, we put 3 motions forward. We asked them to remove, to put to scrap their list of 0 rated items and what they are calling VAT exempt items, and to put on that list more items, or to create a new list that would include all the things that we had which were VAT free under our government. Our government had about 600 set of items that were VAT free. They have a list that has about 300 items that are VAT free. That is how I would like to explain it to you so you understand. More than half of these items that used to be VAT free under our government, that used to be 0 rated under our government, now attract VAT. Now attract VAT, including a whole set of baby food and so on, a whole set of medication, doctor's services, lawyer services, all professional services you have to pay VAT on. Condoms you have to pay VAT on. I see Gail Teixeira pointed out last night, even on the dead, when you go to the funeral parlor, you have to pay VAT. If you put an advertisement with that announcement on the TV, you have to pay VAT. So even the dead is being taxed with VAT. We asked them to revoke that list, to rescind that list, and to put back the original list that we had that had so many exempted or 0 rated items. They said no. They used their votes, they overturned it in the Parliament. All the arguments of the hardship that it is creating on the Guyanese people, they laugh. They say, well, it's our time now. You all had it. So that is the attitude. So they rejected that. We brought another motion that sought to get a resolution passed to remove VAT from electricity. You know, now you're paying, one of the things that you're paying VAT on is electricity and water. So we put a motion there to, among other things, to remove VAT on electricity. They knocked that out too. They say they want VAT on electricity. And then we had an MMA motion, a motion calling upon MMA to reverse and rescind the proposed increases. But time did not permit us to debate that motion. These people are not prepared to work overtime. They are not prepared to work overtime. So our motion could not, the time finished, and they want to sleep. As you know, sometimes we put up photographs of them sleeping all the time in the Parliament because you have a group of pensioners running the government. 80% of them are over 65, definitely over 55. Almost all of them are over 55. So all of them are pensioners by public service standard. Most of them are old age pensioners, but they are in government. And I want to point, as I'm on the question of age, I have a lot of respect for elderly people. I don't believe that elderly people should be working. I believe that they should be home, enjoying the last days of their life. I believe that they should have a healthy and respectable pension. And this government recently sent home former Chancellor of the Judiciary Cecil Kennard and former Court of Appeal Judge Prem Prasad from two positions that they were holding. Prem Prasad was the chairman of the PUC and Cecil Kennard was the chairman of the Police Complaints Authority. Both men were sent home on the basis of their age. Prem Prasad is in the 70s and Kennard has to be about 80. Prem Prasad has to be about 82, late 70s, 80s, and Kennard also about 80. So they send them home for age. Now I would have found no objection with this if this was a principle that you're applying across the board. Clive Thomas is also 80 something, but he is the head of SARU. Clive Thomas is also about 80 something. He is the head of SARU. Hamilton Green is about 100. I don't know how old he is, but he's an old man since I was creeping as a baby. So he has to be 90 something years old. And he is the head of Central Housing and Planning Authority Board. So how you justify this thing? You have one man who's a dinosaur, he's about 90 or more years. You have Hamilton Green in his 90s. You have Clive Thomas close to that. And you're not sending them home. Is it because Kennard and Prem Prasad are Indian Guyanese? What is the difference? It's four men we're dealing with. The two on the PNC side, if you combine their ages, they are older than the two on this side. And how come you keep the two? You keep Hamilton Green, you keep Clive Thomas because they are black, and you send home the two Indians, Prem Prasad and Kennard. The president himself is 70 something. Rupert Rupnarayan is 70 something. Noel Holder is 70 something. Why are you not sending home them? Why are you not sending home them too? That is the discrimination and racism that will not last and will not be tolerated for too long in this country. It will not be tolerated for too long. And nobody can accuse me of doing propaganda work here, of misrepresenting anything. Read the newspapers, and you will read, and you will. Ramjatan himself made a disclosure that Kennard has to go home because of his age. Well, I don't know why you're keeping Hamilton Green. He's 90 something. Kennard is a little whitey. But that is the racism, the rank racism that I'm speaking about. And then, of course, yesterday in the Parliament, the government got a backbencher to ask the Minister of Finance a couple of questions about increases in ministerial salaries while the PPP was in government, and increases in the president's salary while the PPP was in government. And of course, Jordan answered and gave the correct statistic. The PPP governed for 23 years. The PPP was in government for 23 years. And it was only after about 15 years then we raised salary. Then we raised salary. That's the first thing. Moses Nagamootoo doesn't think. So when the disclosures were made, he rushed to the press to get cheap publicity. Because he loves to put his photograph in the papers. But as I said, he doesn't think. So he rushed to front to describe those increases, those salary increases, as disgraceful. Not thinking the story out. You know, there's a saying that fools often rush in where wise men dare not go. Well, here, like a fool, Nagamootoo rushed in to say that those increases which were paid were disgraceful. Disgraceful. Not realizing that when he got into government, those very disgraceful increases were still found to be inadequate to satisfy their lifestyle, their greed, so they had to increase those disgraceful increases by another 50%. Nagamootoo didn't think that out. He didn't think that out. So he rushed to front to say that these are vulgar and disgraceful increases, not taking into account that as disgraceful as they were still found to be inadequate to satisfy the lifestyle of this government. So when they went in, they raised those very disgraced and disgraceful salaries by over 50%. And it doesn't end there. They did not only do that. They tried to fool the Guyanese people by not making it public. They hid it in the official gazette in some back page. And we had to go there and find it. When we gave ministers those increases, it was made public, both before and after. Nobody objected. Nobody objected to those increases. But this one, they hide, first of all, they deny to Raphael Trotman that there is going to be such increase in salary. Because there was a rumor that there were going to be increases in salaries. And they put Mr. Trotman to come forward and say, no, this government will never do that. Then 3 months after, we found hidden in the official gazette the increases by over 50%. And if that was not shameful enough, they then backdate it and make it retroactive to the first month that they ever entered office. So these increases were in September. They retroacted until July the 1st of the year 2015. So as soon as they went into office, this very disgraceful money that Nagamootoo is now saying is disgraceful. As soon as they went in, they raised it by 50%. Then on top of that, Nagamootoo bought for himself a Land Cruiser for $25 million. Then on top of that, he took $60 million or more to repair and furnish the official Prime Minister residence. So that is 60 and 25, 85 million. And then all of them got about 3 bodyguards each and personal assistants that following them even into the washrooms at Parliament. We never had that. They have that. Then in addition, they raised their per diem traveling allowance when they travel overseas. We used to get $25 a day. They are getting $200 and $300 per day. The Prime Minister getting $500 a day, US dollars a day. And they don't have to bring back receipts. We used to have to bring back receipts with $25 a day. And on top of that, they can now travel with their spouses, and the tickets for those spouses are also paid for the government, by the government, with taxpayers' dollars. And then a whole host of them are living in rental houses, which the government is paying the rent to the tune of thousands of US dollars per house. And these people are talking about disgrace. And on top of that, they're imposing VAT on baby food, and imposing VAT on the dead, and VAT on local travels. And the Prime Minister and the President were given some special powers last night in the Parliament. In addition to what the government buys for them, in addition to the vehicles which the government buys for the Prime Minister and the President, which are all duty-free and tax-free, last night they passed another bill that allows the President and the government and the Prime Minister to get tax-free and duty-free vehicles personally now. So quite apart from what the government is buying for them, even if they want to buy their personal vehicles now, they don't have to pay VAT on it. That was specially put in the law up to last night. And these are the people who are talking about disgrace when it comes to salary. They should never ever use that word again. I think we should take some calls now. The phone has been going. The phone has been going for a while now. So I'll begin to take a couple of calls. Remember, this program can also be viewed on Facebook. And I know a large number of people overseas are following this program on Facebook. And I encourage those who are here locally to join me on Facebook as well. Caller, you're in the air. Hi.
Because I'm a pensioner. I only got 2 names for them. I have 2 more from guys to do.
You have what?
2 more names from guys to do. The pensioners.
The pensioners, yes.
Because Mr. Georgine and the other next guy named Earl John.
Earl John, how old is he?
This guy's walking with a stick, you know.
He walking with a stick?
With a stick.
Okay. And what's the name of the other one?
George James.
George James. But how old is Earl Jones now?
Guys are close to 90s, just like Army Green.
He's about 90.
Close to 90s.
Yes. The caller makes an important point. He said, right at Gaisuku, there are a large number of the pensioners. Clive Thomas is there, Earl John, and James, what you said? And some James. They are all walking with sticks, and they are way in their 80s, if not 90s. But they are still given jobs. But Kennard and Prem Prasad are dismissed. Caller, you're in the air.
Hi, Fernando Lal. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Where are you calling me from?
Calling from Nick.
Okay, be quick with your presentation, please.
Yes, my sir. Well, all what you saying, right, and you edifying the people, right? What I'm seeing, right, with all this power, right? Generally speaking, power without character is very satanic.
Yes.
Power with character, fit to rule.
Yeah.
Right? Jagan was
I normally say, if you read, I write a lot, and you will read, if you're reading the newspapers, and you would often hear me make the point in my writing that one of the greatest fraud ever perpetrated against an electorate in the history of the Caribbean was done by this grouping of politicians to the electorate in 2015 and 2011. These people fool every single voter in this country and got them to believe a whole new idea. Almost in every sector you can point to a lie.
Well,
they made promises in sugar. These guys made promises just for promises' sake, and people, unfortunately, we live in a society that's very gullible.
Well,
And people bite into these promises and now they're sucking salt.
well, I say power without character is very satanic.
Yeah.
And all, you see, the supernatural demons working through all this politics and politicians.
Well, we gotta get that superhuman, what you call it, supernatural demon.
Supernatural demon, political demon, and
Yeah.
religious demon.
But we gotta get it out and replace it with divinity and spirituality. Alright? Thank you very much, caller. That caller was adding a spiritual dimension to it there. So, there is always so much to talk about, especially when we are coming to the end of the program. Caller, you're in the air.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Mandela.
Yes, where are you calling me from?
Calling from Albion.
Albion, yes.
I watch your show every week. I must say you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The reason why I'm calling tonight, right, is because it's concerning the person that was there with you
Yes.
at the beginning of the show.
Uh-huh.
First, I would like to ask, is person's private property considered savannah?
No.
Because on the 22nd of January, at Guava Bush, we have a land there. And my brother stays like right next door of that land. And we got a call that someone broke the fence and put sheep in the yard. And when my parents went there, they saw like around 30 sheep in the yard.
Uh-huh.
10 sheep in the yard, right? So they called to lodge a complaint. Now when the individual come for the sheep, my brother told him that they can't do that, that they can't break the fence and put the sheep in the yard.
Yeah.
He started to use abusive.
Is it the same story that the lady was talking about here?
So it's the same individual, it's their sheep.
Okay, okay.
Because, and when my brother told him that, he started to use abusive words on my brother.
Uh-huh.
He threatened my brother. That he's gonna, he threatened him.
Yes, I understand.
They went to the police station.
All right, well, we heard the rest, caller. We heard the rest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So this caller is saying that the girl who was here earlier, her relatives broke some fence and put sheep to graze in private property. That is wrong. That is wrong if that is what was done. But that does not justify or excuse the police behavior which she was complaining about. That is no basis for the police behavior.
Hello? We are not available now.
Hello.
Please.
We lost that caller. His voice went straight into the recording. So we have to wait again until that recording is played. Yes. So while it is wrong, and I condemn those who are putting their cattle and their livestock on people's private property, that is wrong. That's called a trespass. And you can be sued for that, and you can even be charged for that, because trespass is also a criminal offense. But that cannot excuse misbehavior from the police. Caller, you're in the air.
Yeah, Mr. Lala,
Yes.
there is a program
Thank you.
about people they were being broken. Who is a coward? People who is a coward, they are already dead. We people are already dead. They got to fight back.
I know. But all of us are born differently.
So we all must not be therefore cowards. Someone came to knock at the door, you're supposed to kill that person.
Well, that's a little extreme. But I understand what you mean. You have to be vigilant and you have to be prepared to defend yourself and your family and your property and defend your integrity and defend your dharma.
Yes.
All right?
Not
Thank you.
in the night, that is terrible, you know,
Where you calling from, caller?
from Portland.
Port Moran. Thank you very much. This is where I have to, the operator is signaling to me, this is where I have to say goodbye. We have had a good program, and until I see you again next week, please stay tuned, stay good, stay out of trouble until we meet again next week. Thank you very much, and have a great, safe week. Thank you.